Hey guys, thanks for tuning in already. Maria and Mikhail, hope you guys are doing well. I've got the world famous, world class artist, storyteller, tattooer, you name it, Brian
Big
Level.
Mouth. You forgot Big Mouth.
Big mouth. Yeah. Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Appreciate it, Mikhail. Yeah, the OG pandemic broadcast. It's funny we get to this point with a lot of these things, and so many things were kind of born out of the pandemic boredom or insanity. So it's kind of cool to look back, though I feel much more comfortable at this point in time. And Maria, since you're so keen, you were on here before we even had gone live. You're invited to the next show. So um, this is going to be the Brian Level Power Hour featuring guests, and I'm just here to facilitate. So I'm going to get this off the screen.
So I guess I just have to start running my mouth. Is that the power hour? Is just start and don't stop.
Yeah, yeah. I'm relying on you. But
Is
how
this
was
which Maria is this?
Wolf?
Hey Maria.
The
Yep.
uh, the wildest booth in all of Heroes Con between, well, I guess it was the whole area. It's a ton of action. I guess I want to keep saying last week, but 2 weeks ago. How was the post week, post con week for you, Brian? Were you
You know, I haven't stopped. Like I've been like in comic book mode since I got home. And what's crazy is, like for those of you that don't know, like I also own a tattoo shop. And the the amount of tattoos I had to do and the size of them was kind of bonkers. So it's just been like crazy coming home and having to do just the sheer volume of work. So I'm literally running on fumes here. So it's gonna be you're gonna get an absolutely wild version of whatever I draw, which is gonna be fun. I feel like that's the perfect time for me to do it when I'm
well,
feeling a little bit like an animal.
and you guys, as we kind of move week to week, send off those emails of what you might want to see Brian and guest draw. They won't necessarily be picked, but Brian just asked me to name a character that he could draw from memory, and I completely drew a blank. So
He
uh,
totally shit the bed. It was unbelievable. Embarrassing performance,
I
but
know.
we're getting back into it, so we'll get the hang of it. Am I allowed to bust up on you? Like I'm trying to keep it entertaining for the people.
Oh yeah, bust away. I'm an easy target. So
You say that, and you're literally sporting like a gonna punch you T-shirt
oh
today. So
yeah,
it's
that's
a
just
real fuck around and find out energy on that shirt.
that's weightlifting apparel company back in originated out of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Yeah, yeah. You ever do that?
Yeah, yeah,
Do a
not so
little bit of
much.
weightlifting? Would have
Yeah,
never guessed.
not so
I
much
just
these days. I'm feeling my age and my age plus. I feel about 10 years older than I am, I think.
I just kind of assumed you had that barrel chest as a baby.
Oh shit, I don't know about
I do love a barrel chested baby as a concept.
that.
Real barrel chest on that boy.
Well, don't you remember that kid years ago? He was like, it was all, well, as viral as things could be 30 years ago or 25 years ago. That he was like 7 years old and he was just jacked.
You talk about little Hercules, bud?
You little Hercules. Yeah, yeah,
My man, little Hercules.
yeah. That was wild.
You know what's even more wild is that was me.
Well, you conquered the physical realm. Now you're in the artistic realm.
Yeah, that all that gut that I have is pure, unadulterated Herculean muscle.
Well, no, I do in terms of like, because I kind of wanted to pick your brain a bit about like your level of stamina. How how you do it in general, but like at shows, spending an entire show with you last weekend, you did fully realize pieces the whole time you were there, along with multiple discussions with artists, collectors, friends, and your family was there.
Right.
And you were sane the whole time. I don't know, like, what's you wake up and do some yoga before the show? Like, how do you level out? Because I wasn't doing half of what you were doing, and my brain was scrambled by
Well,
the
I
end
guess
of the
the
day.
joke answer is the classic Faustian bargain between Mephistopheles and myself. But the truth of the matter is, I don't have any idea. Um, I don't have like a routine. Like my routine, like is just like I kind of go a little. I get so I'm already kind of odd. Uh, Anyone who spends any intimate time with me would attest to that to a certain degree. But there is a thing in me where like if I don't start making stuff, like I get weirder and more insufferable and more irritable as well. So it just kind of like it's kind of like for everybody, in everybody's best interest that I just go. You know,
Yeah. No,
I'm
that's
built that way. We'll give credit to my dad. My dad's kind of a workaholic type, and
okay.
I inherited a lot of that. So it's really got very little to do with me.
And I guess when all aspects of your career are revolve around creating something, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. But well, and it's not, yeah, it's just the level of stamina. Because um, I was just looking through a bunch of the pieces you did at the show, and I was fortunate enough to be able to see um, those from inception to completion, kind of thing, and it's really impressive. And even just looking back, how, like I said, how fully realized those pieces are, and being able to do that live, um, without, really any backup. You're not at home. You're not in your own studio. There's people chatting the whole time. There's action everywhere. It takes a ton of talent. So
Oh, thanks, man. Uh,
for it.
Sometimes there's like just like useful, like I always feel like, and maybe I don't know if Maria can hear me, and maybe she can attest to this, maybe not, but like there's different like modes that your brain goes into too,
Yeah,
so for me, like I don't ever get too fatigued unless I have to do the exact same thing for a really super long period of time.
yeah,
um like if I can jump from like penciling to inking or to like what, like, you know what I mean, like if there's always something to kind of like give me, like I can't show up at a show, take a whole list, and then just bang out all the pencils. Like I'm gonna like really start to fuck up, and it'd be a bad situation. Like the art wouldn't be very good. Like I need to kind of like keep the refresher on.
yeah.
This Wolverine, if you didn't know this is Wolverine, guys, he's pretty famous. He's from this comic book that's X-Men. Um, so that's what we're drawing today. Cam shit the bed, so I said Wolverine.
Well, like I said, I was trying too hard to be edgy and try and think of some recent books I've been reading. Um, Actually, one thing about Heroes, man, I felt it was just odd. That show was only my second time going. First year, the vibes were really good. It's kind of a whirlwind because I was working the whole time, and same this time too. But it just felt, for whatever reason, at this show, I was just kind of re-energized in terms of reading comics.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Looking at art, just kind of really re-energized. I don't know if anyone else at that show felt that, but man, I felt, just from a pure enjoyment perspective, and enjoying the media that we're in, and the hobby itself. Man, I felt great, and I, I I think I came home with about 10 books. You
Oh,
sold me
great.
on a bunch up in the after party at Shelton Shop there.
My wife isn't in the room right now, so Aaron's not in the room. If you ever hear me say my wife or I say Aaron, that's the same person. It's not two separate people that I'm talking about. But Aaron doesn't know that I did two separate purchases at Shelton's place. I went through one time through the line, bought some shit, and then I was like, "Ooh, there's more." I kind of double
Well,
there.
and we had Marco with us, and
Dude.
he had well, I can't even remember what he ended up getting, but um, yeah, I'd never been in Shelton's shop before, so that was awesome.
Yeah, he picked up some old, either some Don Heck or some, or maybe an old Frankenstein, like those old, like what's his name, Chris Yo, could be a different Yo, it's Yoe. He had an imprint called Yo Books. I think he still does. And he does a lot of historical stuff and just puts a lot of stuff out. But he got this like old horror Frankenstein, Dick, what's his name? I can't remember his name, but some old Frankenstein stuff and just some classic horror stuff that I kind of recommended that was pretty bitchin'.
Yeah, it was well, and probably kept him a little bit entertained. We had quite the flight run around
Oh yeah.
on the way back, but
I, we shot him a little message last night, my boys, because he was getting along swimmingly with them. So
oh
we
yeah,
sent him a little video last night. He sent us back a message. The sweetest guy.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
really it's kind of shitty that he's really like super nice because he's as good at art as he is. So it's kind of like, man, like save some room for the rest of us, you know. But not bad looking either. It's like the trifecta, son of a bitch.
yeah. These handsome, hyper talented, extremely kind-hearted Italians.
Hmm. Bad
Damn.
news. As an American, I say bad news.
Yeah. No, that was great, and I think I try and relay like what my thoughts are as a collector, or were as a collector. I'm obviously still a collector, but it was always awesome going to shows when you get some international guys like Marco arrive, just because it's so rare. So um, yeah, hoping we get him to more shows. And to his credit, it was a long flight. It was a run around on the way back, and but I think overall, I think he had a great experience. So um, yeah, it was an embarrassment of riches for anyone into art and commissions, between yourself and Maria and Marco and Tyler Bentz and Brett Parson and Matt Allison and Matt Lesniewski and Mark Laszlo and Miklo. I'll butcher his last name. And then even on the other end, there's Chris Visions. It was just nuts. Um, just the talent and everyone was creating at the show too. So it was great to see. Great to see.
Yeah, even my kid was doing some commissions.
Yeah, he was. New characters. I was kind of blown away. Those two kept me entertained the whole time. Not just with the kid shenanigans, but just with their insight was awesome, and it's hilarious because it's just hearing their genuine insight was really cool.
Yeah, they're characters, man. They think a lot.
What?
They think a lot. They use their heads a lot. So, for better
Yeah.
or worse.
Well, it was just the conversation you could have with them. It wasn't a one answer conversation. Like one thing led into another, and then they'd think of something, and you chat a little bit more, and yeah, they're very insightful young guys. It's awesome.
Well, they'll be delighted to hear that. I'll make sure to let them know. They won't be surprised that you said it because they were. I like that this is just bigging up everybody. We're gassing each other up here. They were talking about how nice of a person you are, so they'll be delighted to hear that you enjoyed them.
Oh, good, good. No, it's the feeling's mutual. I had a lot of fun.
Good, good. So I've been kind of working on like back to like some art stuff, like I guess process because some people might be interested in that. And if I don't know if you can take questions and stuff on this, like they can on other stuff, but
Yep.
like if anybody has any questions about tools or process or anything, I'm always glad to answer that. Um, But with what I've been doing lately is I've been kind of trying to use brush for as much as humanly possible. Um, and I have found that like my work kind of has a slightly different energy to it. It's, not as detailed maybe as some people might, like kind of expect. But I think that what I might lose in like just like noodly little tiny lines, I end up kind of making up for in like energy and I think power, which I think is one of the primary things I try to focus on in my stuff is just like big, powerful stuff. Daniel Warren Johnson, when we were in New York last year, he walked up and Dan and I are buddies, so he was being complimentary when he said it. But he was like, "Oh yeah, he's doing the Brian Level pose," and I was like, "What's that?" And he did it like with his body, and I was like, "Oh my god, I do that all the time." You're right, because there's a certain kind of a way that you can kind of twist a body to kind of give it like max power a lot of times. And so Daniel would kind of like, it was funny because I'd never really realized that I do, some similar stuff to try to like really draw out like torque and stuff like that in my figures. Cause he always does such like lyrical commissions where everything feels, like there's this big time, like emotional story going on. And I'm just kind of like, I'm going to like draw something that's going to fuck your face up, and his shit will fuck your face up too, but like it's a different approach. So, for him to kind of say that was just like, oh, that's kind of like neat. And it made me feel a little self conscious at first, but that wasn't his problem. That was just me being like, what does that mean? And then and I was like, oh, wait, that's like why the shit works. So he was, it was definitely a complimentary thing. Yeah, I really liked, I kind of liked, I liked hearing that in a way because it meant my stuff kind of had like an identity in a
Yeah.
weird way. I always kind of worry about that a little bit. Not like I really do anything differently because of it, but I do kind of have these moments where I'm like, does my shit just look like everybody else's in the world? Like,
I don't think so. Neil, speaking of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan earlier, Neil, well, and I don't know if you're still there, Neil, but Neil is from Saskatoon. He's just wondering, Brian, for you and anyone else in the chat, what artists did you look up to growing up?
um, so for me, a large portion of my comic book sort of love was from Mark Bagley
Ah, yes.
and Eric Larson. So they were kind of like the guys that I looked at all their stuff all the time. And then some stuff shifted when I got into Daredevil. And even though I didn't really get super into Scott McDaniel, like it blew my mind. And I think the reason I didn't get into him is because it was just like kind of too advanced for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Um, it was like like Jay Lee or whatever, like when he did Namor, how crazy it was. Like
Yeah.
I felt like that was like still more accessible in a lot of ways for me because it was just like bitching, but it wasn't hard like to look at.
Yeah.
And what Scott was doing on Daredevil really kind of messed my brain up, and it really was beautiful. But it was like kind of beyond me. And it wasn't until I became an adult that I understood why. And then 1998 happened, and I started reading Guardian Devil, which I think for a generation of dudes my age, Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada was a real turning point for what we thought looked awesome. And then I went back and started hitting Joe Quesada's stuff like crazy, like Ninjak and all that stuff. But as far as a kid goes, that was kind of the stuff that really did it for me. Uh, and Angel Medina's work on Sam and Twitch when Bendis was writing it. That was
Yeah.
a pretty transformative book for me. And that also was when I kind of started getting a lot more experimental, like with stuff that I liked. So I got real into Ramos as well, Humberto Ramos.
Yeah.
All those cliffhanger guys really were special and
Uh,
still are, of course.
yeah. Humberto, he's been great for a long time. And even just the evolution of kind of what he's been doing lately, um, he's incredible.
Broke the mold when they made him, that's for sure.
Yeah. So it's one thing I want to like more on that because growing up, I'm sure at some point we all just wanted to read the weekly Batman or X-Men adventure or whatever, and I think that still holds true for a lot of comic readers. They're just reading the title of the character. It's not really creator driven for a lot of people. At what age, you being an artist, did you start to kind of gravitate towards books that were drawn by a certain person, or you're drawn to it for the art style, or I'm sure less so the writing style, but you're creator driven in terms of what you read, or did that not happen for a while?
So I did take a break on comics for a brief stint when I went to college. Um, so going to college kind of put a damper on some things. I still read a couple little Vertigo things here and there. Um, but I don't think I really started just flat out buying for, well, that's not true. Cause even in those late '90s, like I remember picking up, like Ali Garza's stuff cause it just blew me away. Um, like those covers on Eve Protomecha, I was just like, what the fuck? This is so cool. Like, and cool with like a capital C, you know, like I'd
Yeah.
just never seen anything so hip, you know, and felt so modern and interesting. And so like I was buying for artists in the late '90s for sure, but I didn't really have like one that I followed, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't until like Ramita Jr. like really happened for me, like in my brain. Like once my brain kind of like, you know, Ramita Jr. shows up with a sledgehammer no matter what, whether you like it or hate it. Like he's showing up with a hammer.
Yeah.
Um, and once that hammer broke into my house, like in the best way, like I was like, okay, like I got to go buy everything. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I got to figure this out. And I think that it wasn't like I didn't want to draw like Ramita, right? Like that's one thing that I don't know if it was like tattooing that did it for me or what it was, but something in me, I never really wanted to draw like these people. I just wanted to know what magic they had that I like that was speaking to me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Ramita Jr., that's the best description of him I've heard. You know, love it or hate it, it's hitting you right in the face. And I remember that was my first experience with him too. It was the Punisher War Journal stuff or Warzone,
Oh yeah,
and
it's just devastating.
and I was like young when I got that issue one. I probably say it every second live stream, but I got a 3-pack of Hearts of Darkness,
Oh my god,
Punisher
what a book.
Warzone #1, and then Marvel Comics Presents #100. That's I think it's like a Doom, Ghost Rider, Wolverine. I can't remember who's in it, but just this Ramita Jr. style plus Sam Keith, and
Oh
it was
my
just
god.
the Punisher issue was just like so. Oh my! I don't even know how to describe it. It was just like it was that him blowing guys up in that issue felt real and mean and violent, but I was so drawn to it because it's not photorealistic or anything like that, but you felt it.
I think, and you know, like I think it's because it steps into the place of like hyperreal, where like you know 90% of what we kind of do, like in our life, like we filter everything through our interior experience,
Yeah,
and like Ramita Jr. just bypasses all of our exterior experience and goes straight for like you know like the brain. He
yeah,
doesn't go for our eyes, you know, um, and it's like he goes through the eyes straight into the brain. And I think like that's why he's so divisive too, is because people don't like having that kind of confrontation,
yeah,
and like people that you know like are you know, eyeball people. They need everything to be perfect. They need everything to make sense. They hate him because they don't understand, because they don't let things penetrate. I'm willing to bet that people that hate John Romita Jr., like for real, often hate artistic movies too. You know,
yep,
like there's a thing that he does that's like, nope, this isn't a like. There's no artifice in it. You know, like it's all just pure like fucking id. It's like
yeah.
getting injected with like adrenaline or something.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like pontificating about Ramita Jr. That's my guy. That's my religion or whatever.
Well, he was such a part of so many like people around our age, our experience as kids, because whether it was on the X-Men books or Punisher, and Spider-Man later on, um, and it was just he is so divisive. Oh, you get into those heated comic store arguments or conversations with people, and I swear it was split right down the middle. Um,
It should be like that's kind of what art does, right? Like it's challenging.
yeah, yeah. No, that's for me to. So I'm just gonna
I
just go.
also in my perfect pontificating, I also often don't leave room for people to have alternative opinions, and that's just a me problem. So if you don't like Ramita Jr., that's fine. I would argue with you, but you're entitled to your opinion.
What it's Mikhail's trying to start up arguments here.
Oh, is he? Okay, I didn't even see that. That's so funny. It was perfect timing. I'm just being a prick, Mikhail.
And here I was just tweeting about how great your taste was, Mikhail, which I still think you have wonderful taste.
I like that we've taken the ooh, hold on. I see that there's like stuff coming in, and so I'm like, ooh, I want to read these, but just read them to me so we don't lose the power on the hour here.
Mikhail says, I love the passion, even if it's wrong.
Well, where do you live, Mikhail? Because I'm coming over, and we're either going to do this with tea or with fists.
What's that called when you reveal your location? Doxing? Is that what it is? Don't dox yourself here, Mikhail.
Yeah, don't. I was just kidding. I'm not tough either. I can take a punch, but I can't throw one real hard. That's my history with fighting, is like the Homer Simpson move. You just gas them out.
Oh, yeah. I oftentimes think about that episode until he fights, what's the Mike Tyson character in The Simpsons. What the hell's his name? Got a good here.
I don't know.
Frederick Tatum. I constantly remember that episode because Frederick Tatum just beats the living shit out of him. And speaking of like that, I remember that being kind of visceral too.
Just the sound of that packing meat every time he got socked in the head. It's so good.
Maria is wanting to know, what type of tea are we drinking?
Is there a coffee tea? Because that's what I'm about. No, I'll drink anything. I don't know if there's any tea I don't like. I don't like the chocolatey sort of stuff. Nah, I'll pass on that.
I feel like that way with Mikhail's love the passion, but even if you're wrong, I'm very divisive for like flavored coffee. I'm
a black coffee guy, dude.
Yeah, me too. I think flavored coffee is one of the worst things that's ever happened. and I know a lot of people, and I love a lot of people who like it.
You should have said used to love a lot of people.
Yeah, there's something to it. And that's maybe you reach a certain age. Well, Adam says you can only do iced coffee. That's interesting. I can do iced coffee, but I got to get warmed up to it a little bit. It's always a jarring experience for me. But once I'm into it, I don't mind it.
I like iced coffee, and yeah, I like iced coffee, but it's not like I'm not going to run to it,
Yeah.
And seeing Adam pop up, now is something we can agree on here. Mikhail and I are friends again. Like that meme of the two dudes that are like shaking each other's hands, or they broke up for a while.
Yeah.
That's us right now.
I pictured just the Predator pose. Carl Weathers or Dylan and Dutch, right? Dylan and Dutch. Yeah. Dylan, you son of a bitch.
Dylan. Yeah. You got to have that weird, like, Dylan. Seeing Adam pop up made me want to run upstairs and like kind of like flash his commission in front of the camera. I wonder if that would be a good segment on the stream. Is if you've got a commission and you're in here, you might be able to get a little sneak peek at it.
Yeah, but you have to be on right at the right time.
Yeah.
Because Well, and I've done it before where I'll accidentally just delete the live stream right after, so it doesn't even go up to the channel, or we'll get flagged for something and it'll get taken down, and then we'll just um, dispute it, and they're like, "Oh no, you're fine." Weird sometimes.
Hmm. All right, we're starting to get some shapes here that are good.
Adam
Sorry.
says he's glued to the screen.
Oh, good, because I was kind of nervous I was going slow and being boring.
Well, you penciled this. You must.
I started this on the stream.
Yeah, that was a lot quicker than even like just the penciling part. I mean, you're quick at shows, but that was a lot quicker than you do at a show, hey?
But yeah, because this isn't. I don't have anybody to. I don't have anybody to let down right now. I'm a Midwestern to my core, so I operate best when there's disappointment on the line.
No, don't we all? Don't we all? How did? Well, I never really asked. Well, I guess you talked about it, but did you have? Did you enjoy Heroes Con, even just relative to other shows, past shows? How'd you feel about it?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, so on a financial end, it was not very good. Like, which was kind of a bummer. Like I think I earned like half of what I did last year, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah,
Luckily I had like I did some pre-show commissions to kind of help cover some of the cost. But I was a little taken aback by that. But I tell you, I always max out the fund. So it's
yeah,
kind of one of those things where as long as I can kind of like show up not like in the red, uh, that's usually a sign of a good heroes for me because it is really summer camp out there for me.
yeah. Yeah, it's kind of well, and I said it a bunch, and a lot of people. It seems like a lot of people are setting up pre-shows, and a lot of the group, uh, a lot of guys who've been collecting for a little while, maybe more methodical in their art purchases at a show like Heroes, because the group of the core group of collectors there have been doing it for a while, really savvy in what they do. So, and you maybe don't have as much of that frenzy that you get. Like I remember Seattle specifically, and I was right there in the middle. It was just spend, spend, spend. There was one year where I got like 15 pieces, and it was just like I couldn't stop getting commissions. Like it was just crazy. It wouldn't, and obviously things were less expensive back then, but I was one of 50 guys like that on the con floor. So it's just, yeah, I think maybe the evolution to, like I said, Heroes is just full of such a like a good collecting group. Guys have been doing it for a while. Guys that are really savvy. Guys with monster collections as well. Like there was at least two people walking around. I won't name names that probably had close to seven figures in their portfolio. If you can portfolios, if you can combine. Mikhail knows who I'm talking about, but just crazy. I don't. Did you see either of those portfolios, Brian?
No.
Oh yeah, there was between Bernie Wrightson and Jim Lee, and
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely didn't see that.
yeah, it's pretty wild. Pretty wild. Shades of well, maybe different degrees of stuff, but what show was it? Was it New York? Yeah, New York a couple years ago, where guys were just handing around the Dark Knight Returns cover.
What the fuck? That is awesome. That's how
it
it should be.
was wild. I saw guys in the booth holding it. Um, I think it was at the comic sketch art. Guys were looking at it, and there's kind of three or four guys around, a couple artists too, and they were just kind of enthralled by this piece. And I saw it. I'm like, oh, is that a print? I was kind of at a distance, so I'm like, oh, it must be a print, or maybe there's a remark on it, or maybe it's a redo or something. But no, it was legitimately the original.
No way.
And out of the sleeve, everything, which
Oh
was
yeah.
awesome.
I
But
was reading an interesting thing. Real quick, if I'm gonna go shut this door. If anybody saw this door just open up arbitrarily and have nobody will come in, that's because a rabbit opened it and came in. Uh, so that's what you were witnessing. Uh,
uh, you have a
yeah, I
bunny?
was reading somewhere recently that like I know like good practice for going through old manuscripts and books, like super old shit, is actually just clean bare hands. Um, because there's something about like I don't know, like there's something like about the hands that's fine, like that's not damaging in the way that like maybe rubber or glove, like like latex or whatever might be. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Huh. Yeah, that is kind of interesting. You don't know always what the best way is to do it. Well, I remember early on handling art, you'd have a $100, $200 commission, and at that point in time, I was just it was so priceless in my hands. I was so worried that even in a top loader in a portfolio, somehow was going to get wrecked. It's just like it's so paranoid in those early days.
I wonder sometimes if anybody's ever bought a page from me and wondered if it got damaged in the mail, but it's just me like slamming it into coffee cups and shit while I'm working on it. Like, if you see, like, if you watch me work, like, I'm sitting here, like, spinning this thing around, like, so willy nilly, like, it just, like, that's how it is all the time with me. So I'm, like, always bashing into things. I'm always kind of wondered if people have been like, what the fuck? What happened to this? And it's like, oh, Brian got a hold of it. That's what happened to it.
Well, personally, I think if the paper or the board gets dinged up pretty good in the process, I always think that that's pretty cool. I always like that part of the process. I think if something just gets ripped in half in the mail or something, that's a different story. But I always can appreciate when things get dinged up. Sometimes you get art that's just so clean. Like, is this even real or is this a print? So I can appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, my shit's always a mess. I always kind of tell people to, like, and anyone in the group who's gotten a commission from me, I think could probably attest to, like, when you see the stuff that I do in person, it feels a lot different than what the scan does. Just because of all the layers and like how beat up it is, and it's definitely like a different experience.
Yeah, I know a friend of mine has a really great Jorge Zafino,
Oh
Mr.
God,
Mr. Terror page, and it's like a splash, and it's
how about
kind
that
of like,
Terror Ink, John?
yeah,
Yeah, hell yeah.
yeah, and it's so banged up, but it's so awesome, and it being that banged up makes it even that much cooler. And this friend who shall remain nameless, he just hides it. He hid it as soon as it arrived because he knew how bad I wanted it. So, but it rules. And part of the charm is just how destroyed the paper
That is
is.
awesome. Yeah, I use a lot of razor on my stuff too. Anyone who's got stuff from me probably realize that.
Yeah.
Um, did you read Bad Weekend?
Yep. Yep.
How about that shit?
I love that. I think didn't we talked about that at the burger place.
Oh yeah,
And
I couldn't remember if I recommended it to you then or if you had read it or not. I was
no,
recommending it all weekend.
you did recommend it, and then the only reason I bring it up that we talked because I went to look for it and I couldn't find it, but that one is definitely due for a reread. Um, that's such a great book, such a great book. I'm guessing you guys in the comments, you guys out there, if have you read it? Um,
If you've not read Bad Weekend and you have comic book art, it's you should definitely check it out. Brubaker and Phillips doing what Brubaker and Phillips do, but set around comic books and comic book original art, which is what a hell of a combination.
What I'm curious how that story hits for people who are just like maybe more casual, who just read comics because they like whatever and someone recommended it. I'd be curious how that hits because that story, it felt so specific to the things that we all do.
Right.
Oh, Jay, just sold a 4-page sequence. Make sure you share that stuff, Jay.
Sold a
Jen,
4-page sequence from what? That book?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm sure that's what Jay's referring to there. And yeah,
Damn.
Neil, check it out. It's awesome because it on top of being like that superstar creative team, it's speaking to stuff that we hold so near and dear to our hearts, and yeah, it feels kind of meta in that sense.
Oh, definitely. I think Brubaker's even in it, like briefly, if my memory serves me correctly, like in the background.
Yep.
Maybe you were the one who brought that up actually when we talked about it. But it was just an excellent comic book.
So Jay says the bar scene when the artist is reflecting on the industry.
Oh
That's
yeah, yeah.
4-page sequence. Well, Jay, I hope that was subsidizing something awesome because that is a killer 4-page sequence. So I'm just.
So guys, I hope nobody's too bored, but I think we're closing in on like the blacks here. And then I'll go in and do like the fun stuff where you put all those nice little details in and everybody like gets excited because it's detailed. And frankly, myself included, that's one of my favorite. If anybody knows Ramon Villalobos, we had a really long talk about my art about 5 or 6 years ago. And there was a lot of back and forth about the utility of the small little marks, because so much of his work is punctuated by that. Um, like he and I have such a uniquely different approach that he kind of felt like that I didn't need to do that stuff and it might actually be harmful in a lot of what I made. And there was a part of me that was kind of like, man, I like doing it. I like the way it looks. And we kind of had a little bit of a back and forth, nothing like intense or anything. It was just kind of like working it out. And really he was right, but it wasn't that the work didn't need it, period. It's that it didn't need it in how I was doing it. And ever since then, I started kind of like it really created a more mindful approach for me that I think has really paid off in the finished product. So it was kind of a nice. He's always a guy I can kind of count on to not give me any bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm anybody who knows me as an artist, like I'm constantly like, what's wrong with my shit? What's wrong with my shit? Like I live in that like space so I can try to make it better and better and better. Your Cam has to hear it all the time from me.
Well, and it's kind of interesting because when you ask a question about my opinion on how something looks or a technique you use, if this is okay or whatever, it does give me a little a deeper peek kind of behind the curtain, and just seeing kind of what you're thinking because you're around art in comics long enough, you develop a bit of an eye for certain things, but there's so much non-artists like myself don't know. So I always appreciate that insight because I do learn a lot every single time. So, and Mikhail's just wondering if you feel like your style changes over time or has changed over time.
Definitely. Well, so I guess that depends on what you mean, right? Because if you mean like how I come at art, not really. There's some like little tweaks here and there, but for the most part, my goals are generally the same. I think a lot of it depends on like the big shifts are maybe more on the finish, not like on the construction or anything like that. Like there's some little things I do differently with construction over time when I learn a new thing, or not even like a new like technique, but just like when your brain grows in knowledge, like and you then start to apply it. Like that happens periodically, and that'll change your art. But right now, like all the evolution in what I'm doing is really boiling down to like trusting certain tools more and longer, so that way I can kind of get a different sort of product. Like if you pull up that what do you call it? That Punisher I did that everybody really seems to like, that 9x12 one where he's standing over the guy and he's getting executed.
Yep.
Like that piece has got a lot of wow factor because it's so violent, and nasty and extremely rendered. Versus this, like they're clearly like the same sort of structuring, you know, still big chunky hands, big chunky figure, you know, big expressive sort of stuff. But I'm kind of leaning more into like trusting like the blacks uh, to kind of like do a lot of the work and not really getting in there and getting super noodly about every line, just kind of letting the forms fill out. Because to me, like a large portion of what I do, and it's always going to be the way I do things, is try to sell volume. So I want the stuff to feel three-dimensional and like it feels heavy. You know, like I always make the comparison to that video game Gears of War. If anyone's ever played that, if you play Gears of War, you know kind of right away, like, man, this everybody feels like they weigh 1,000,000 pounds, like in this game. Like, and that's kind of how I want my work to feel, is just that everything weighs 1,000,000 pounds. And that's because, you know, John Romita Jr. stuff feels that way. When he draws the Hulk, it feels like you couldn't lift him up, you know?
Yep.
And so that's always my approach. So it just really boils down to finish is really the only thing that really changes.
Okay.
And it's funny, when I was talking about stuff I got into when I was a kid, am I cutting somebody off, or are you just showing that? Yeah.
I'm just showing the Punisher. Yeah.
And so what's funny is that Punisher, I still love it. I would still do it very similar. Like, but there's just some things I wouldn't do now. You know what I mean? And I don't know if I should say those things or not. Maybe, like, I don't know how people are, or people get funny or insecure if they own pieces and then they hear about how the artist would do it differently. You know, in the tattoo shop, it's kind of funny because I'll talk about things and how I'm always dissatisfied, and people be like, "We like mine, right?" It's like, yeah, I like it, but I wouldn't do it exactly the same. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because I'm trying to do things differently. And you know, one of the big influences on me when I was younger, you know, well, let me rephrase this, didn't really become a proper influence until I was a little older, but somebody who affected me pretty intensely when I was young was Ed McGuinness.
Yeah.
But Ed's stuff is, you know, it's really clean, it's really powerful, but it also there's a technical mastery in it that is really alien to me even still. And it took a long time for me to kind of figure out what about Ed's stuff really spoke to me. And only recently, honestly, did I really crack that code. And I think that when you see this now, this drawing I'm doing, you can actually see a lot more McGuinness in it than maybe you would have 10 years ago.
Right.
And that's just because I kind of know what it is about his stuff that I love, you know, and that took a long time.
Yep. Ed's awesome. Another question here, Brian. Do you think tattooing changes the way you see art on a page? From
Absolutely.
William.
Absolutely. So the skin being a non-flat canvas, you learn really quickly that the body inherently has rhythm to it. And what's funny is when you draw a comic book figure, like when you do figure drawing, you also learn that the body has a rhythm to it. So it's kind of funny how like those two things kind of merged together in my head, which was like, oh, drawing comics and drawing figures really helps me understand the body. So when I do sleeves and back pieces and all this other stuff, I really have an appreciation for the lines of the body. But all of that work that I've done on the body ends up translating kind of interesting to the page, because I start thinking of it rhythmically. And so when you look at my storytelling, I think there's always an approach and a push toward I always try to make everything look like a dance. You know, it's maybe not always the same type of dance, you know, like where if you go to Batman Bigby, right, like it's not going to be the same type of dance that you're going to get from Separation Anxiety versus what you're going to get from, you know, Secret Empire or my sort of weirdo, you know, crime stuff that I do for myself. Like there's always a slightly different approach, but I always start to think in terms of, it sounds so counterintuitive, but the page to me, and getting on the page and making art and drawing figures, whether it's storytelling in pages or just commissions, I think a lot of it in terms of music. And I don't mean like, or not even music, just like straight up vibes, you know? Like, but music is usually how I think of vibes. Like this Wolverine, I'm not thinking of it like crunchy rocking guitars and you know what I mean? I'm more thinking of it in terms of like almost like there's a choreography to everything that's happening. And so I just kind of want to find that moment and not really freeze it. Like just let it do its dance. You know what I mean? Which is kind of a really weird and maybe stupid thing to say. Maybe I'm kind of like overly artsing it, but I'm trying to process what happens in my brain because there's not an easy language for it.
Yep.
That
Well,
might
yeah.
be the most long-winded non-answer of all time, with the exception, I guess, of any political debate.
No, no, it makes sense. I mean, the um, having gone to different tattoo artists over time and talking to comic artists all the time, it's always interesting to see what um, kind of transfers over for some people. Um, what kind of for as you as a tattoo artist as well. I don't know if you consider yourself a comic artist first, a tattoo artist second, or you don't think of it in those terms. But yeah, I'm always just intrigued by what art beyond um, tattoos kind of inspire tattoo artists. So that's
Yeah, I
interesting.
don't really, I really don't identify super hard with anything beyond. Yeah, I guess I don't really, like, I'm very much a tattooer. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
but it's like if you take that away from me, like, I still know who the fuck I am. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Um, and same, like, and it doesn't mean I default to comic book artist either. Like, so my relationship to these things are that I try to. How does that song go? Hold on loosely, but don't let go. Uh, I try to hold on to all this stuff kind of loose, because I don't want to get overly identified with it. And not like let me rephrase that. Not because I don't want people to know I'm a tattooer. I don't want people to know. I just don't want to feel like if there's a failure or it doesn't work anymore that I've lost who I am or something. I don't want my identity to be wrapped up in it. But
Yep.
I'll also die a tattooer. Just whether or not I do it professionally is a whole nother thing, right?
Yep.
Um, but to me, like, there's only one story in the entire world, and it's not mine and it's not yours. It's a thing that's happening and we're in it. And I'm not trying to be overly philosophical about it. It's just how I stay sane and calm. Is like, this isn't about me. It's not about who I am or who I think I am. It's not about any of that shit. It's just I make this stuff because it brings me a lot of joy, and it brings other people joy, and it puts food on the table for my family, who I love dearly. And so I don't have much of an over identification with anything other than the stuff that I love. You know.
Yep. Oh, that's a really awesome way to put it. Um, yeah. Then yeah, I don't really have anything to add that's going to make that any better.
Well, I mean, and I guess I wasn't. I don't know how else to. Like, if I can't fall in love with it, then I gotta, like, either work on myself or I gotta work on finding another way to do something.
What do you hit snags? I mean, creative blocks, um, and if you do, does putting a little more effort. Say you're struggling with the needle, the tattoo needle, the tattoo gun. Does investing some more time into comics or even writing your comics let you kind of balance yourself out with both, or do you need to step away from the arts, or like you said, you're probably not totally capable of doing that,
Yeah,
stepping away?
I'm a firm believer in the only way out is through.
Okay.
So that's usually how I approach things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what's the
if I'm struggling with something, then I usually just kind of like take a minute to breathe, so I don't have any feelings about it anymore. And then once I don't have any feelings, then I just go through it. And I try to have as few feelings as possible, when it comes to, like, stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah.
They don't usually provide me anything beneficial. And I know, whenever I get angry about something, then I all of a sudden feel very important, and that's contrary to my worldview. So, uh, I I need to ensure that I don't get too invested in anything emotionally either, on a negative end, right? Like, if I'm feeling joy about stuff, then it's like I'm all day, let's go. But if I'm feeling like frustrated or angry, it's like, okay, I need to just step away from my feelings a little bit, pack them away, process them, work through them. I'm not like a stuff it down guy. It's like I don't. I also, if this is super fucking boring, like just tell me, because I realize like I'm talking about like
No, no.
how my interior operations go, which is like maybe the most boring shit on the planet. Um, like I don't stuff things away. I just like I hold on to them and don't let them out until I can go into a dark place. And I don't mean like dark like scary. I mean dark like literally like no lights on,
Yeah.
and just look at them. You know, like I'm not like a big like abolish it sort of guy. Like get rid of this or that. Like I'm kind of a make peace with it sort of guy.
Yeah.
So
No, you're then nothing. Nothing you're saying is boring. It's very insightful. 'Cause you're not giving us the generic. Well, you're a football guy, but I'm
yeah,
not
oh yeah.
the generic, response that we're used to. Mikhail's wondering how was working on Batman Bigby.
Well, let's see. Do we want the uh you know, my editors, I had a lot of them because there was some restructuring going on at DC, and I shit you not, every single one of them ruled. They were all awesome. Um, Willingham was very polite in the very limited interactions that we had. Um, that's a real sticking point for me. I'm like a guy who will talk my shit in public because I'm not, I don't give a fuck. Like I got a tattoo shop where you can do kick me out of comics. You know what I mean? Um, so like I'm not really afraid to talk a little bit of shit. I got a little salty when Willingham like just wouldn't respond to anything that I did, and that's once again. Then I had to go. You know what? Who fucking cares? You know what I mean? Like, who fucking cares if he doesn't respond to me? That's not his problem, right? So my experience of it was one of a little bit of conflict because when I collaborate with people, I want it to feel like it's as much theirs as mine. And
Yeah.
the only way that I can really ensure that is with their approval. Um, and so I ended up kind of taking that little bit of like my ethos and kind of getting a little too attached to it, and to the point where it actually made me a little salty, which was so once I kind of cleared that, it was cool. I also was the first full series that either of the big two had me do, which is kind of interesting. Um, like no one ever had me do like a full on run like that. So that was interesting and took a lot of time. Also was the first thing I had ever done where I had an inker. And so I got to work with my friend Jay Leiston. Jay is extremely talented. You might know him from working primarily over Greg Land and Steve McNiven. So if that says anything about the quality of his skill, he's stellar. Um, working with Jay was always nice. He's super talented. And, it was interesting too because he brings a lot of just a completely different technique to the table. So when you see this drawing that I'm doing and you see what I did in Batman Bigby, every line is more measured in Batman Bigby because Jay is such a great technician that he was able to take a lot of the chaotic lines I would make and really kind of like make them more, I guess, I don't want to say better, because I feel like I do a cool thing too. But he was able to kind of make it more like considered and like a more thoughtful line. And so I really appreciated that. I learned a lot from working with him just about inking, which is funny because I broke in as an inker. I used to do panels. I still remember doing a panel with John Glapian and Jay when I was first breaking into comics. I'm all over the place. I'm like a fucking crazy ride right now.
No, that's good. I appreciate the tangents.
And like we were like, so we're talking about our approaches to inking, and I was the absolute like noob guy, like, and they're like, so what do you do if they want you to draw in a different style that you're not comfortable with? And I'm like, well, I don't do it. And Jay's like, well, like that's why it's kind of good, why I like to have a, kind of an ability to do a lot of different things, kind of be able to bring what the job calls for. I'm like, oh wait, that's a professional answer. You know what I mean? Like I gave like the tattooer answer. And it was like, fuck them. Yeah. Which is not really an answer, but having to work that, and Jay's like a good friend of mine anyway. So like we had a great time kind of just talking approach and stuff. As far as the visuals go, I'm kind of glad that you really liked them because there was a little bit of a fight. I was really excited to work on the book and there's such rich stuff in that world. But I did feel like there were times in the script I'm like, man, Bill, there's a lot of shots going back to this same thing. And so I kind of made a personal challenge to like really make the visuals as interesting as possible in the weirdest ways possible. Like kind of developing that motif of all the open books and all that stuff. that everything was looking like it was inside of a storybook, because I was just frankly didn't want to draw 10 different angles of that same warehouse. Like that was really boring to me visually. And I felt with Batman Bigby and such a rich universe like that, we could just kind of go nuts and nobody wouldn't be the wiser that it wasn't, in the script or anything.
Yeah.
So, I guess it's a mixed bag, like I think that my experience working with everybody was awesome. The story I thought was cool. Like I really enjoyed certain aspects of it. I wish I would have got to draw more monsters. If those of you that read it, the real thing I'm super proud of was how Bookworm really looked at the end there, with his hat off. That was like so I was so hyped that they let me do that. And I was just kind of bummed that I didn't get to do more of it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't get to draw that a little bit more because it's such a crazy visual. That yeah, there was some cool shit in there for sure. So yeah, it was like a mixed thing, because I wanted to just draw more crazy shit.
Shades of your one commission request that was just at Heroes. That was just make it gross.
Oh man, yeah, that was a fun one.
And
I feel like I did. I made it gross.
you did, and it was alarming how quickly you conceptualized this.
Cam, all I do is think of fucked up shit all the time. That's all I do, man.
And here it
Get
is.
used to it, bud. We're almost kind of, yeah. Part of my concern was that I didn't get more guts in there because I'm not usually like I don't usually like to draw a whole lot of hyper violence, but it just kind of wanted it. Like I like to draw things real scary, but not necessarily super violent. But that was one that just needed it.
Yeah, that's excellent. I remember at the Calgary show one year, Jason Burrows was doing a sketch cover commission of some crossed characters, and it was just like, and I like Jason's work, but it was just the subject matter was so disturbing, and he had nailed it that I just like I felt so uncomfortable with the piece. I felt so uncomfortable with it.
Oh, you bought one.
What's that?
You bought one.
Jason did?
Are you saying you bought one? Like you said, you're on.
I bought a piece. I bought a pre-done piece he had at that show.
Nice.
But he was working on someone else's commission when I went by, and yeah. And speaking of the one of the guys that's gonna, well, hopefully, Kevin, we're gonna be harassing you to hop on here pretty quick. And if you've read Kevin's new book with Kurt, it's phenomenal.
Which one was that? Because I think I just saw them advertising it, and I haven't been to the shop in a couple of weeks.
You've been canceled.
That's right. That's right. Was that a who put that out, Kevin? Was that Mad Cave?
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Congrats, man. Yeah, I haven't talked to Kurt in a minute. It's been a while. I think last time I spoke with Kurt properly was in New York at New York Comic Con a number of years ago.
Yeah, Kurt's awesome. Him and I have been threatening hooking up for coffee and chat for a while, but just hasn't happened yet. But yeah, you guys read You've Been Canceled. It's kind of it's the Running Man, kind of like very much in that regard, but it's Kevin's awesome art, so it brings this like hyper crazy realistic futuristic like and Kurt, it's yeah, no, I think I had some preconceived notions about what the book was going to be, and they were all good, but yeah, I was blown away. So it's a good job, Kev. That was awesome. And issue 2, I think, is the order deadline just now. Issue 2 is probably not out for a little while. Kevin, I'll let you answer that. I'm not providing anyone with any useful information right now. But yeah, the book rules, and it looks awesome.
Yeah, Kevin, you don't fuck around, dude. So I always love seeing what you do. Did I miss anything on his costume? I feel like oh, he's got like those little like slivers that go over top the shoulders.
Oh yeah, you
And
can't.
so I'll hit that, and then I'll hit him with a little stubble, and I think I might be donezo.
Oh, nice. Oh, say
And
so. Kevin
should I
says,
hit him with a couple of gentle grays, where we would not really need it? You're
"Ah."
you're gonna be nice and say it doesn't need it because that's what you do, but give it to me straight. Let Kevin tell me. He'll shoot me straight.
Kevin, do you think Brian should add some gray wash to that? See, the problem with us being in like the studio part is that this part of the screen is tiny for me.
Oh, bummer.
So I'm sure the guys watching can.
Whoa.
Oh yeah. Your second, what's the image guy? Is it Shadowhawk? Is that the?
Oh yeah. Jim Valentino.
Yeah.
Jim gave me my first creator-owned book at with Ed Brisson. We did The Mantle.
Oh, nice. I did
Did
not know that.
Shadowland. Yep.
How was working with Ed?
Ed's absolute god tier human being. What a great guy.
I feel like it's okay to insult him. I think Ed and Adam Gorham. I find it's always okay to insult those two. So
Yeah, they'll throw it back at you. Well, I never really insulted Adam because I always liked Adam real well, and I would say that we're friends. But I never got to the point in our relationship where I feel like I could say anything to him to bust his chops too bad.
yeah,
There's like someone's got to do it first, and I never did it. So I don't know if it's allowed because he's so sweet too. And sometimes when people are real sweet like that, they don't they're not mean enough to
yeah.
like. But then you find that they are, and it works out great.
Well, Ed, long before I was doing Inky Knuckles or anything like that, and I was just at a show in Saskatoon and just chatting with him, and I was writing some stuff at the time, and didn't know Ed. I think he might have. I can't remember if he's sitting with Riley Rossmo or not, but long story short, Ed was just awesome. I picked his brain, just some writing tips and what he thinks about certain things, but he was just no prior relationship or anything, and he's just he was awesome to talk to. So yeah, when I say it's okay to make fun of Ed, I mean it with nothing but love. And Fred, I wondered when you were going to hop on. Fred says the mantle is how he discovered you.
Oh no shit! What up, Fred?
How's your post-con week and a half been, Fred? I've been tired as shit. I'm still catching up. I don't know what's wrong with me. And then Kevin says, I mean, it's killer piece already. You throw some gray wash on there, and that's going to add that extra oomph.
All right, we're gonna oomph it up then, fella. Thank you, Kevin.
Well, now that opens up for when Kevin comes on, and he asks, "Should I put screen tones on there?" And you say, "Yep."
It was all a ruse, really.
Yeah.
I planned ahead. I was gonna put gray wash on the whole time.
Well, I think it was Marco. He loves the screen tones, and I think it was Aaron Conley had told him, spot some grays here, do some stuff to avoid screen tones. I was kind of laughing at Marco because he was full on. He wasn't afraid to pull out the screen tones and go all out at the show. I'm like, oh man, that it looked painful, but he did it really well.
Yeah, Conley was over there. He was killing me because he was like, "You're not getting paid enough to put all that on those 8 layers on there."
Well, it didn't stop him, which was funny because he was telling me after hanging out with Aaron, he's got some advice for how to make things easier for me at the show, and then all of a sudden, it just didn't stop him. But no, it was great. Yeah, Fred's hopping on the list. He Fred's also Fred and Mikhail. He's pumping Mikhail's tires about how good of taste he has. And Fred, you as well, my friend. Kevin says he got tricked. Yeah, was there anything at Heroes, Brian, that you didn't get around to doing that you wanted to do?
I mean, I never get around to seeing all my friends.
Yeah.
So that's always a great big sadness for me that it's like I don't get to see some of my friends. I felt like there was a book. I would say I wish I would have done like one or two more commissions so I could have got a Brent Parsons commission, but that ended up working out fucking wild. That's hanging up in the tattoo shop now.
That was one of the funnier things I've ever experienced. Yeah.
Is that a story to tell, or is it not, or is that a private, like, for us story?
No, I'm indifferent, whichever. Whichever. Well, why don't we save it for the next show? Because then you can just show the piece, and we can kick it off with that.
Oh yeah, that's great. That's a great idea.
Because it was honestly, I couldn't stop laughing. Those moments where you're kind of like, even looking back on it, I was laughing just because it was everyone's expression, and Brett was being so gracious about it, and I was. I don't know. It's hard to say. It was so funny to me. I can't explain why, but yeah, it was great. And Brett, that was the first time I've met him. First time meeting him in person, along with Maria and Marco and Tyler as well, and actually Matt Allison as well too. We've never actually met in person. But Brett is a machine. I was in awe of what he was doing at the show. It was crazy.
Yep, he's a sicko, real sicko type. All right, I'm gonna put a little bit of gray in here at Kevin's request.
Yeah. Well, now that
how long have we been going on this? I'm kind of curious on the timer. I know damn well we've been over an hour.
An hour 13.
Damn, I'm sorry, y'all, if I'm keeping you. I ain't trying to.
Well, considering I'll take the blame for that. I didn't really give you too much to go on prior to.
Well, I said I might have had something penciled and ready to go. So that was kind of my bad. I didn't have shit. I literally was showering like 30 minutes before this thing. So I had a birthday party at the neighbors.
Nice. Nice. Did you so anyone who just hopped on kind of late, this piece was penciled and inked completely on the stream. So it's yeah. Neil's calling for another hour.
If I didn't have some deadlines to hit, I would say let's figure out a way, but unfortunately not.
But and like I said too, guys, even if you put in the comments or email us what you might want to see Brian and friends draw on the Brian level power hour, because Maria and Kevin are both on the hook now because they signed in. So yeah, we're gonna get back to doing this stuff regularly. And I think, Brian, we talked about it, maybe doing it every 2 weeks, seeing how that goes, just to get some more consistency in it. Because I think the last one we did was Matt Lesniewski and his the Faceless Zoop campaign. So And that was 7 months ago, according to YouTube. Time is flying. Excuse me. I appreciate it, Adam. Streams are a lot of fun, and I think I talked earlier about kind of being reinvigorated, re-energized, just with comics in general from Heroes. But yes, seeing guys draw and create, it's just kind of an embarrassment of riches for 3 days. Seeing that, I know that as a collector, it's the same thing. You're table jumping, talking to your friends, talking to artists, whatever you're doing, but it's just like you step into a completely different world where the best artists on the planet are creating in front of your eyes, and a lot of times for you. There's no greater feeling.
And we never once brought up that Brian Stelfreeze piece.
No. Mikhail asked earlier if we had seen him working on it.
Every year at that show, he puts out a banger, and that one was just something else.
Yeah, I love that piece. I absolutely love that. It was funny because I had some friends who preferred the piece he did last year over this one, but I swear that's the scan they had of it. The scan that showed up online did not do that piece justice this year. Like, seeing that thing live was insane. I felt like that was just like masterpiece, and everything he does is like that. But you didn't do the auction at all, did you, Brian? Just the
You didn't? No, you put the. I didn't go to it. No, you put that Electra in.
Yeah.
But that was the closest I got to it. Look, I struggle with that environment. It's just the sonic, like I always said, like, it's not the loudness that bothers me, it's the loudness without intent. Like, it's just like that constant white noise. It's like fucking what were they playing, Back in Black or whatever, to get the fuckers out of Waco. Like, that's how it feels to me.
Yeah, that was a little I could see how that was overwhelming. I kind of hopped in halfway through. I wanted to see yours and Marco's pieces up for grabs, but it was hard to see. Yeah, all the audio at the auction was awful. Yeah, and I'm finding myself like, I mean, just like kind of an old man with glasses. Like, you got to get up close to see things now. And yeah, Kale says the AV was terrible. No, Brian says the same thing. Yeah, but it never deterred how it's still a lot of fun. And like I said, it's just an odd thing. And I'm in a place, and Neil can probably attest to this too. We're kind of secluded from artists, comic community. Like, there are big ones, but not to the extent like in Charlotte, especially at Heroes, where it's just like your favorite artists, your best friends in the hobby. Like, everyone is there, and you don't walk 5 feet on the con floor. You don't walk 2 feet on the auction floor without running into someone like that. So it's kind of, that's awesome about it. But yeah, that auction is chaos. And the guy, well, the Scotty Young, when that one went, the celebration that was had when that guy won it, it was like Super Bowl level celebration.
They're dumping out the mojitos or whatever on his back.
Oh, it was just crazy. And I appreciated it because it wasn't this. And I don't know who he bought it.
I love a good old fashioned expression of joy.
Well, I could appreciate that because there wasn't this instant like crazy buyer's remorse, which I'm sure happens a lot at those shows. But yeah, that celebration was something. But I don't know overall if the auction numbers were down, overall. So I'd kind of heard. Manny Yelling at everyone. Oh. Says Heroes. How far is the drive for you, Brian?
Well, on the map it says that it's 7.5 hours, but when you have two children, it becomes a nice 9.5.
Well, what was
Hour drive.
the big gas station barbecue place called
Are you
that
talking
you?
about Bucky's? Bucky's? Bucky's?
Yeah.
You talking about that Bucky's? Bucky's? Yeah, dude. My kids are nuts. Now that's like they think that's vacation now. So like the fact that I have to plan fucking Bucky's into my vacation trip is just an insult to life. Terrible. I don't want to go there. I want to go to the exit before it at the Loves because I can get in and out. And I'm not like now if everybody was hungry for barbecue, I guess there's a reason to stop. But just let me look at I don't know who bootlegging as a habit is, but I don't need that level of excitement right now, all right? Yeah, well, it's fun like to show people Bucky's, but like and it's great if you gotta here's my take on Bucky's, all right? If you've gotta take a real gnarly shit, like you're gonna want to go to Bucky's. But the trouble is if your shit's that gnarly where you want to go to Bucky's, you're not waiting long enough to get to Bucky's. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like who's this for? You know? But clearly it's for lots of people, just not me. I actually don't hate Bucky's. I just don't like stopping there because there's so many people. It's a zoo, you know.
Yeah, like I I don't love the chaos of places like that, but as a Canadian, not having that, I would want to experience that once at
Oh, for
least.
sure.
Yeah, but I can also understand. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's a Texas classic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
God bless them. All right, let me get out this.
So
Yeah,
Fred,
I actually don't have any real beef with Bucky's. I just feel put out that my kids make me want to go or like make me go there. That's really bad. The
it's
real
one of
crux of the issue is parenting.
yeah, well, it's one of those things where it's like your kids drive you nuts with it, but when they're older and in university or whatever they're doing, you'll have a real fondness for that memory.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. That's a great point of view.
So Fred says, I heard from a few artists, prices were down at the auction. I'm assuming the DWJ piece went for dollars too. Which piece, Fred? The Transformers one, the Megatron one? Because our pal Rob, he is the lucky recipient of that one, and I won't disclose dollars or anything, but felt like he got an incredible price on that. Like incredible price on that. Wall of jerky. Oh, there's a wall of jerky. You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm in
Well, Bucky's
Alberta.
has a lot. So what am I? Like they have great bathrooms. They have barbecue. They got their own candy. They got like a dozen Slurpee machines or whatever. Like they've got the wall of jerky. They got legitimate like swim gear with the Bucky's logo on it. They got a damn statue. Like
So
it's
it's like an
crazy.
institution.
It is.
Yeah. Well, you guys, I don't have a Whole Foods here, so I went to the one in Charlotte, and the jerky selection there, because I'm Western Canada, Saskatchewan, Alberta, so we're all about our Western Canada beef. So jerky is a big deal out here. So I'm always looking for jerky, and I got tricked I tricked myself into buying like vegan mushroom jerky from Whole Foods because it's all lumped in with the beef jerky.
Yeah.
Oof. I was a little bit bitter after taking that first bite.
I got to tell you, if you didn't know you were getting it, that's a huge disappointment. I actually don't think that the mushroom jerky is terrible if you know what you're getting into. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's it because
It's not a replacement for beef jerky or anything, but
the taste was fine. It was just like, yeah, you think you're biting into a piece of beef and you're biting into a mushroom. Very jarring.
hilarious, really.
I can't believe I fell for that. I
Yeah,
could
dude,
see
they do too. Whole Foods got your ass.
that.
You're on candid camera.
Uh, uh, Brian, I know you're doing Gem City next month, but are you doing Cincy Comic Expo?
I think I am not, because I've got to, because I'm going in November to Thought Bubble. So I'm kind of trying, like, so here's the grim truth of Cincinnati is I've got to be doing really well financially that year to be able to pull Cincinnati off, because my tattoo shop is, Cincinnati. And if I'm guaranteed to have appointments that day, that's always going to be a lot better than the crapshoot of getting a couple of, commissions. Um, if that makes any sense. Um, like being in Cincinnati, like I'm gonna take the gear. A lot of times, if like if I'm killing it financially that year, then it's like, yeah, sure, no big deal. I don't really. It's like taking a weekend off financially. Um, but if I'm like going to England this year, I kind of need to save some more money and make sure all that's going well. So I don't really think it's a wise weekend for me to do a show, because I could be making money at the tattoo shop.
Yeah. Well, I think Kevin was right on those grays. That's making that pop. Yeah, I'm just getting caught up on the comments. Just talking about the Daniel Johnson Optimus Prime painting, and yeah, they put it into the Sunday auction, so I think that was a big part of it. Rob, being the savvy guy he is, he knew that too. I when I saw him on the show floor on Friday and he had it, I I think he basically the night before told me that he was going to get it. Like, I think everything happened exactly as he planned it, which is amazing. But that was a great piece.
Yeah, Oceans 616.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I should. Well, let's see if I can get myself a bigger screen here. Oh, there we go. I try not to mess with the studio stuff too much as we're in it, because I've done it before where I've just logged off. So I'll just leave someone on the stream without me.
That's hilarious.
But I didn't do it this time. Yeah, that's an awesome piece, Brian.
Thanks, man. I gotta make it seem cool by splattering some white paint on it and signing it and all that shit.
Yeah, Wolverine I think was a great choice for the first of many streams to come.
Hell yep.
Yeah, and like I said, you guys shoot some themes or requests or anything our way, and there's no guarantee that the Brian and guest will do it, but we'll it definitely give us some good ideas, because like I said, my mind went blank when Brian asked me. Universal Monsters request night.
Oh, that'd be fun. All right. Well, I think we got it. Let's see if I can kind of get this. I'm gonna grab a couple of these here art books. Oh, talking about what art does anything for me that's not comic book or tattoo related. I got my big fat stupid art books up here for what I. So what I'm gonna prop this out here. I'll give you the run through since they're right here.
Okay.
So we got this mini Bosch, which is hilarious to imagine Bosch as anything mini, but they got a lot of like details on Bosch's crazy stuff. And I got Bruegel the Elder, your Bruegel fan. And then keeping in the Brew tradition, Bruyere, the photographer, some really great stuff in here. early 20th century stuff. Bill Mortensen under here, American photographer as well. There's a great quote from Ansel Adams. For us, Mortensen was the Antichrist. Fun fact about Mortensen is that Anton LaVey dedicated the Satanic Bible to Bill Mortensen, which is kind of. Let me get this out of the way here. So, yeah, there's the finished piece.
Awesome. And are we gonna put that one up for sale, Brian?
Well, I don't need it for any reason.
Okay, well, there you have it. We'll post some info to the social medias, but yeah, that was awesome. Beautiful work as always, sir.
Thank you very much. It was very fun to come on and do it. Thanks for everybody that gave your attention.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That was great. A lot you guys engaged, heavy. There was
you guys rock.
No lulls, and
come up with some cool games to kind of keep it fun, like stupid quizzes and shit. And maybe I'll go through some. Maybe I'll prep some good. If you dweebs like art, which I know you do, we'll pull out some fun art stuff. Like every once in a while. Like I know most of y'all probably aren't real familiar with Mortensen, so there's like some cool shit to show there. Like pop out and show a couple cool things and why I like it, what I bring, what it brings to my process.
Fred says math problems.
Yeah. Oh, you know what, Fred, you can do that, and then I'll stick to the stuff I know.
Well, that could be part of the trivia night. Fred can give us a complex math problem. And then that'll be extra credit, free sketches if you can solve.
The math problem that we would do on the show is how many heads tall is this character going to be? And if it's Trad doing that big bad from the end of Luther Strode, I think we counted 27 heads tall.
Jesus.
He's a maniac.
He is.
Well, thanks for watching me draw, and yeah, I don't know, do I have to come up with like a cool send-off or a dance or something that people get into?
Well, you don't have to tonight, but I think so. I think we'll do every 2 weeks is kind of what we're planning. And for you guys hopping on Wednesday, I always kind of kick myself afterwards, but I think we get Dueling Dealers from Bill and comic art fans on Wednesday nights. I'm still okay with doing it around this time, but let me know if I kind of like the idea how you can kind of just pit in if you're doing some work. Check out Dueling Dealers, check out our live stream. Just kind of a fun little engagement thing to keep you occupied while you're working or just hanging out or whatever. So, but yeah, any comments on what you guys might want to see? I know we want to see Brian draw. That's a given. So, but yeah, just feel free, hit us up. Like I said, appreciate you guys hopping on and appreciate everything you do, Brian.
Oh, thanks. And before we sign off, if anybody wants to talk stuff, if you want to talk about like just fiction and comics and entertainment and stuff while I draw, if you want to read The Good Asian between now and the next stream, we can talk about the first volume of that. I think that'd be kind of fun. And then maybe watch Hellraiser, and we'll talk about Hellraiser as well. And then that's just me throwing it out there. I'm going to read that and reread and rewatch that. So for the next 2 weeks, so that way I'll be able to rap with you guys about that if you guys want to do that.
So there it is, the book movie club, Good Asian and Hellraiser. Get on it.
I figure that's something, keep us, if we run out of stuff to talk about, we can talk about the movie or the comic book.
Well, there you go, guys. Gives you a good recommendation on a book to read. And I mean, revisiting the OG Hellraiser is never a bad thing either. So
unless you don't like it scary, then I would suggest staying away.
I haven't seen the new one yet. I want to see it just so I see it.
It's good.
Is it? Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It doesn't come at. See, this is what we'll save for next session, right?
Yeah.
I've got feelings about it, but I don't really have any bad ones.
Oh, that's good. No, I was eager to watch it. It was just access to it in Canada was tricky for a while, though I think I can get it now. But Grant says Jesus wept.
Thank you, Grant. I almost tattooed that on a gal. I did a Hellraiser tattoo a couple months ago.
Oh, awesome.
I think it's on my Instagram if you guys go over there.
Yeah, go check it out. All right, guys. Brian, thank you. Thanks for everyone who joined in, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yep. Bye-bye.